Good morning, sunshine. Welcome to another day of the Make Your Damn Bed podcast. Today is a continuation episode, so if you didn't listen to yesterday's, you can scroll back in the feed and do so now. That'll catch you up to where we're all at. Otherwise, you can watch today's episode and yesterday's episode in a video element at youtube.com/JulieMerica, if that's more your vibe. Otherwise, stick around. You might learn something anyway, you know? Like I said, today I'm continuing on with the empathy conversation. And the more I thought about it last night, the more I realized most of the people that I know and relate the most to don't really struggle with not having enough, and it's more about having the right boundaries around their empathy. Because we all know empathy is a critical and powerful tool to help us connect really deeply and authentically. But if we're not careful, there is such thing as a dangerous level of empathy. And anytime I think about a dangerous level of empathy, I think about the 5th season books that a friend recommended to me because I was such a deep feeler when I was younger. And boy, do they hit every time. Anyway, one of the things that can happen if we are displaying empathy without boundaries is we might get struck with a case of empathy-based guilt, or some call it survivor's remorse or survivor's guilt. It's also referred to as pathological altruism, but it basically means that we may start to feel incorrectly that our own happiness or success or privilege is at the cost or expense of someone else's. So when we see other people suffering, we may end up taking a level of accountability that's not actually ours to take on. This type of survivor's remorse or empathy guilt can cause depression, anxiety, and end up making us feel less connected to the people we were trying to connect with in the first place. There's a rehabilitation and trauma counselor named Mark Stebecki who coined the term empathy fatigue, which is in reference to this state of physical exhaustion that comes from repeated or prolonged personal investment or involvement in the chronic healing or illness or disease or grief or trauma of others. Basically, it means we took on too much of their pain and it became a physical manifestation of our own. This is something that is increasingly common among professionals in empathetic leaning careers, such as healthcare, counseling, lawyers, and educators. And there is some evidence that this level of empathy fatigue can happen to anybody outside of the walls of work as well, especially if we don't learn how to sustain proper boundaries. This isn't to say we should all stop being so empathetic and kind, because empathy is one of the kindest ways we can respond to people having emotional responses to things. But we have to understand that it's not helpful if we're not conscious of how their emotional experience is affecting our own. When we get in the habit of directing all of our attention outward amongst other people, it makes us less effective at addressing their needs and our own, which means it's easier to become codependent, in which we model the same exact energies or personalities or behaviors of someone else, or we chameleon our own energy to match the room around us. This can mean we lose our own sense of independence. In an effort to connect with others, we actually lose the connection with ourselves, which makes us less connected to others in the long run. It's a big whirlwind of catches, you know? So if you are the type of person that finds yourself resentful at other people's emotional responses, or if you just struggle with setting boundaries in general, or shit, if you're one of those people who likes to put other people's emotional responses above protecting your own well-being, you may have fallen into this empathy trap. What I like to do is ask myself some questions to check in and see if I've fallen into the trap. You can ask yourself, do you spend more time thinking about other people's feelings or potential responses than your own? Do you focus on what other people are actually saying during confrontations, conflicts, or arguments? Or are you more focused on how to format your response in order to just alleviate the confrontation from existing in general? Do you find yourself becoming passive aggressive because you haven't spoken up for yourself in a more aggressive way? Do you find yourself taking on the deep, tough feelings of other people at the expense of your own? And are you so out of touch with your own needs and wants because you're constantly worrying about everyone else's needs and wants? If so, maybe time for a check-in and a restructuring so you can find some more of that balance. Tomorrow, I'm going to share some skills that we can implement to create more boundaries around our sense of empathy and the way that we express it. In the meantime, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll talk to you tomorrow while you make your damn bed. Oh, also, if you want to support the podcast, you already are just by being here, but you can do so even more by subscribing at Patreon at Make Your Damn Bed Podcast. You can subscribe on Instagram or TikTok at MYDB Podcast. You can also sign up for the newsletter, which I'm going to be better about in the new year, at makeyourdamnbedpodcast.com. Or you can buy merch now, mugs, t-shirts, and the like, all at tpublic.com. That link is in the show notes below. If none of that's your vibe, just downloading and subscribing is also cool, but every share, every 5-star review actually makes a huge difference too. So thank you so much for doing that. I love you guys. I'll talk to you tomorrow while you make your damn bed. Bye.